songs, let me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc, where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
So you have to cultivate that, and you have to also recognize them in some ways. A party at the end of the season in October, and so on, or just calling out names, or somebody that went above and beyond, and make people feel good about themselves and volunteering. Why are they volunteering for your department? That recognition piece is important. So I think that's really awesome.
All right, this is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. We are live here with the Leadership Series, and I have one of my most favorite guests who may have the record for the most times he's come on the show and shared just all the Parks and Rec wisdom that's in his whole career. And he's really good at teaching and sharing and identifying the challenges of Parks and Rec, and then expressing those challenges and solutions in a very educational, concise format. And so from the first day I met Seve, I was like, this guy has just a great message, and I want to help get it out. So I'm not sure, maybe this is the 4th or 5th time he's come on the show, because I'm always asking him, let's make another piece of content and stuff. And he always finds a way to talk about a topic that seems to be very common issues found in Parks and Rec. So usually if Seve's talking about something, it's typically a problem that every Parks and Rec director will face. So it's very universal problems, and then of course providing universal solutions. And he's just been really good at what he does, and he's also taught in director school and a lot of other places. So really excited to have him as almost a forever guest on the show. As long as he's willing to come and talk, I will be willing to host as much as possible. Okay, so we're going to play our 500th episode thank you video, probably for the next maybe month or so, because it just really summarizes what we've done, what we're accomplishing, the mission, the vision, and a big shout out and thank you to everyone like Seve that has come on the show and told their story and shared a lot of solutions and problems and their whys. And just really, really appreciate all the love and support that we're getting from the industry. And I actually want to show something. I'll figure it out after the halftime break. But I went and searched online. Are there any national media companies that talk about Parks and Rec and present that and stuff? And guess what AI chose to put at the top of the list? The Daily Parks and Rec Show. I was just floored, because I thought for sure NRPA would be up there as well. They were right under me, but I'm like, okay, NRPA has been doing this for 80 years. I was hoping that, they would, because they do so much and have done so much. Big shout out to everybody that works over there. But I was just honored that AI would select us. And maybe it's because we're exclusively a media company and don't do all the things that NRPA does. But it was just kind of a compliment from AI to us and the work that we're doing, that if our objective is to get the word out, at least AI is recognizing we're getting the word out. And so big shout out to the AIs out there that are highlighting the work that we are doing, and because it really is about the community, and I really want to highlight all the show hosts and the guests like Seve that come on and share their journey in Parks and Recreation, because they're the story we're trying to tell, but it's their story. We're just look at us like a big megaphone that's pumping that word out to as many people as possible, and then capturing it and creating evergreen content so that even many years after me and Seve have left this earth, hopefully young Parks and Rec directors will still be listening to the wisdom that has been shared with Seve, and then he's passing on to y'all many years to come. So Jovi, why don't you go ahead and play those two, and we'll come back and we'll start our conversation with Seve.
It didn't start with a big studio. It didn't start with a massive audience. It started with a simple idea. One conversation, one camera, one episode. Back then, DPRS Media Network was just a vision. No guarantees, no roadmap, just a purpose. To tell stories that mattered. Stories from the Parks and Recreation community. Stories of leadership, passion, impact, and the people making a difference every single day. Episode by episode, that vision began to grow. More conversations, more voices, more people who believed in what we were building. What started as a show became something much bigger. A place where people felt seen. A place where ideas were shared. A place where the Parks and Rec community could connect, learn, and inspire one another. And today, we celebrate a major milestone. 500 episodes. 500 stories, 500 moments, 500 reasons to keep moving forward. But this is not the finish line. This is the beginning of our next chapter. In the months ahead and in the years to come, DPRS Media Network is growing into something even greater. We are building something truly special for the Parks and Recreation community. Something designed to bring people closer, to create stronger connections, to open new opportunities, and to continue serving the people who inspire everything we do. We are also expanding our reach through new partnerships, working with organizations who believe in our mission, partners who share our vision for community, leadership, and impact. And beyond the screen, we're showing up in more places than ever before, attending conferences, meeting leaders face-to-face, building connections that strengthen our community. Because DPRS has never been just about content. It has always been about connection. To everyone who has been with us, from episode 1 to episode 500, thank you. This milestone belongs to all of you. Here's to how it all started. And here's to everything still to come. The future of DPRS Media Network starts now.
All right. What do you think of our hype video?
No, that's great. That's awesome. Yeah. Very well done. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I remember I used to live about 3 blocks from LSU Stadium, and then every at the beginning of each season they would come up with a hype video about all the hits and all the plays and all the excitement of Tiger Stadium, and it reminds me of that. It's like you want to just run out on the field and conquer the world.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
So how's life been going over there? I know you've got some new projects going on, but give us an update.
No, there's lots going on. So San Francisco, as you know, just to kind of give you the background and everybody the background, sometimes in the media it does get exaggerated, as many other places do. Things are a lot better. Sure, a lot of the ground floor businesses are still struggling to fill their vacant spots and so on. That's post-COVID. And as you know, a lot of things in San Francisco is tied to the IT industry, so as you know, AI is a big thing. So a lot of smaller AI outfits are moving into some of those ground floor offices and so on, and other offices too. But overall, that's still one product dependent city. So it does tend to take time to fill those areas. But tourists are back. We've got lots of things happening here in San Francisco itself, with a lot of changes across the board. We have a new mayor that's been there for just over a year. So again, things are, it's showing positivity, I guess, overall. So that's a good thing. People feel good about being here. And how could you go wrong? As you probably know, San Francisco, one of the prettiest cities in the U.S., and just to be here it's a boon in itself. I feel that way every day,
Yeah, I mean, if you paid attention, which I don't even watch the news, but if you paid attention to it, you think California was just on fire and everybody's leaving. But I actually went there just a few weeks ago to Long Beach, and it was gorgeous. It was a beautiful area of town. There was a big comedy club. It was clean, and
Yep.
we had a great time at the CPRS convention. And so sometimes you think of, if you watch enough news, you think you're going to go there and see some like Walking Dead scene in
Yep.
San Francisco and New Orleans. I didn't see it. It's not the case from what I
Correct.
saw.
No,
Um,
exactly. And no, and I think sometimes it does get exaggerated. Yeah, sure, you might have pockets here and there. Every city has
mm,
that,
right.
and you deal with it and you live with it, or you try to do the best you can overall. But again, just specific to our gardens in the heart of downtown San Francisco, we're thriving. I mean, not to brag about some of the projects we're doing, but lots of green, sustainable projects we're doing.
Mhm.
We just went with a new lighting system across our campus. We're halfway done. The other half will get done later in July. Is We qualify now with the new lighting for the dark sky program. So the idea
Ah,
is that you find birds that are dying when they hit the glass at night because it's so lit up at night and so on, and those are unnecessary lighting fixtures that were there on the buildings and so on. So we're putting the lighting, still taking care of security and safety on the ground itself while people are
mhm.
walking, going on steps and other areas. So those are lit up, but the air is not lit up, so to speak. So that
Ah,
project is about halfway done. That's kind of a fun thing. We did have some kind of bad news. Our Martin Luther King Memorial waterfall that was slightly damaged due to vandalism. We also
mm,
live in times where there's a lot of friction, I guess, politically, socially, and all of that. It happened to be during the Black History Month. Our Martin Luther King Memorial was vandalized. We're recovering from it. We've ordered some replacement parts for it because it was built, about 33 years ago. So it's hard to find the right kind of parts to replace what was built 35 years ago.
yeah.
Uh, so that's a challenge. But again, we're living through all of that in San Francisco here itself. But again, we're on the upswing. We're building a Chinese medicinal garden. We're building also a Japanese garden to add to our gardens portfolio of eventually 22 specific or respective gardens that
Yeah.
we should by June.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think it's one of those cases where be careful what you wish for, because a lot of times we wish for abundance and we ask for a lot of the same products and services being delivered more efficiently. And
yep,
I think a lot of the things that we're seeing born, whether it be robotics or electric cars or AI, is doing that. But the pace of change is going to cause social unrest because it's like the chessboard is just moving so much, and people, anytime massive change happens, it's just people get so uncomfortable with it, and so that's where I think Parks and Rec is just almost like a stabilizing force of every community to just continue to invest in their community,
yep.
build on top of what they have, and they're kind of doing that quality of work while the rest of the world shifts from one form of operation to another. I feel like we're in this. What do they call it? We've entered the singularity.
Yep.
To where change is happening so fast, you can't even keep up.
And you mentioned chess and the community impact piece. So we just hosted last Saturday our annual that we started about 2 years ago. But the tournament has been going on for a while, about 20 years. But on our property, because we have built-in chess tables on our campus, but we do this event at one of our black box theaters. 360 kids and their family and all of that. So close to
Wow.
2,000 people came over, and it sold out within an hour and a half. So it's an open chess tournament for youth 16 and under. And it's just amazing to see the talent, and some of these, there are 4-year-olds that are not quite grandmaster, but they're up there, to
Oh yeah.
watch playing chess,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, so you can actually pull up on my LinkedIn. I've posted some photos of the event from last Saturday. So again, very well attended. It's about community building, bringing people here that might not typically come to our gardens from all over the state. Actually, we had people come here from Fresno and Bakersfield area that drove all the way here to participate in the chess tournament. So it's kind of
Mm,
fun. Another avenue besides your typical parks and typical recreation programs. So
yeah. Yeah, it reminds me. I had a son when Peter was 4 years old. His handle was Fast Pete 4, and
oh
he would play these online games. He was a big gamer, and he was always on these teams that had like high schoolers and college kids. But he was wiping the floor with these adults, and he was only 4 years old.
yeah,
And so chess is one of those games that it doesn't discriminate on age. It's just like if
right.
you can win, you just move up, the food chain there.
No,
Um,
absolutely. And we're lucky to have the headquarters for chess in the U.S. It's called the Mechanics Institute here in San Francisco. They've been
No
running this.
way.
Yeah, just about 3 blocks away from our campus. That's how I got involved. I'm like, when I researched chess, because I'm a chess follower, and
Uh-huh.
it's like, oh, they're just 3 blocks away. Guess what? We have to get them on our campus, And so that's how the partnership started 2 years ago. We
Yeah.
hosted the tournament last year. It sold out in about 3 hours. This year, within about an hour and a half, the tournament was sold out. And as with anything we do on our campus here, talking about community building, all our events are free. So we subsidize it and get the families and the kids involved.
Mm.
And then we have our grandmasters doing these, fun games with playing simultaneously with 20 different players, and come close to losing, but they never lose.
Right.
So it's kind of fun, just to watch the community involvement and just people coming out to see what's going on. So
Yeah. And one thing I love about Parks and Rec is that there's so many different, oftentimes when we think of programming, we think of maybe swim lessons or sports or something. But I mean, Parks and Rec offers a vast variety of non-sports stuff like
Yep.
chess, like STEM, like ballet, like arts and visual arts, performing arts and stuff like that. Maybe if someone was going to start a chess club or program as just one of those things that they offer to the community, how are they going to get started?
Basically at the grassroots level, basically,
Mhm.
in your community surveys or when you go out into the community for meetings and so on. Again, I encourage Parks and Rec to host meetings at the community's places of comfort, not at your rec centers or your places. And then you'll be surprised to find out that, oh, my son plays chess and we drive 50 miles to, say, the nearest big city to compete. How could we get that going here? I'm sure some of the schools already have programs, like after school programs where the kids are playing chess and
Mhm.
so on. But kind of heighten that piece to like, let's get it organized and let's do a small tournament and see how many people sign up. First
Mm.
time you might get 20 people. That's great, but you still got to start somewhere. And then the goal would be 200 the next year and so on. And you kind of do that. And then investing in it. So working with USA Chess or Chess USA, and getting the boards built or made for your specific requirements, because you can find mats now. You don't have to get the full chess boards
Right.
and things like that. Pieces are readily available. You could also do some fun chess buy-in from the community during your larger community special events, where you
Uh,
have the tall chess pieces. They're about 2 to 3 feet tall, and you play them outside.
nice.
So you have to kind of build that momentum,
Yeah.
and the investment will come, because a lot of the parents that do have their kids play are usually pretty well off, in the sense of where they stand on the socioeconomic structure, that they might be able to also help support with additional
Mhm.
funds. And then obviously the local other sponsors and donors are out there. You just have to
Yeah.
cultivate them also. But first year you might get 20, but the goal would be to keep continuing and not just give up. Oh, we only got 20 people, we failed. No, we didn't. You actually started. So let's keep
Right.
going. So
I'm curious. I've never. I played chess, of course, when I was little, but I never really got into it as a game, or like at this level. What are the like? I know they have grandmasters and then a player. I don't know anything in between. But what does it take to become a grandmaster? And is any other steps along the way?
yeah, so most of the national organizations register players, just like, say, USA Hockey does for hockey players and so on.
Mm.
But with chess, you get points as you enter tournaments and you do well, depending on how far you progress. And then those points count on a regular basis. Only some of the events, tournaments, points count, where you get up to, I think, about 2,600 points or 2,400. I'm not exactly sure that number, but
Mm.
it's up there, and it takes a while to get there. Then you're classified as a grandmaster. And
Mm.
once you're a grandmaster, usually you can also fall back, from what I understand, but you also have to keep up with playing and getting the points on an annual basis,
Mm.
to get there. So no, it's a process. But again, families are starting way young. I think a little too young maybe for my
Yeah.
liking, but I think that's okay if that's comfortable for the families. They are free to do so. But I mean, you're seeing younger and young. I mean, in a place like India itself, it's become like a factory now. So many of the parents are hiring chess coaches at age 3 or 4, once the youth has an understanding of how it all works.
Right.
And they had the youngest grandmaster, I believe, 7 or 8 years old, just made grand.
Wow.
Yeah. So imagine somebody that's 50, 60 years old, been playing chess for 40 years, is treated at the same level. So that's chess is also a great equalizer in that sense. Like you said early on, that he could be 5 years old, and beat a person that's been playing for 40 years,
Right.
And they're equally grandmasters. But that could happen easily. So
yeah, I see little shorts on like on Instagram and TikTok where you'll see this little kid giving a grandmaster a run for their money, and I think that's what's going on. Is that little kid might be a grandmaster also?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's especially in Eastern Europe, it's still a big deal, because countries like Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Russia, obviously, India, it's like a big part of the culture and the system to produce chess players, and that's what's happening. And obviously in the U.S. too. Let's not forget that, completing that story about San Francisco, the Mechanics Institute. All the U.S. grandmasters from Bobby Fischer and all that have gone through the place here in San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
They currently house about, I think, a dozen grandmasters, that play out of the Mechanics Institute here in San Francisco. So I got to meet some of them. They were here for the tournament. They did their rounds and handshaking and photos and all that stuff. So too many names to mention, but there's so many of them,
They're like little superstars in their
I think the
right.
most the largest one from our group is his last name is Nakamura. He's our top-rated U.S. grandmaster. He comes here often enough, to the Mechanics Institute. So and chess again, it's a different game. People might not think of it that way, but it's one of those. They call it the noble game. I mean, it started off that way, but it's again a great equalizer. So whether you are a person that makes $20,000 in income a year, or you make $2 million, chess brings you all together, and you're enjoying the game. So that's the thing.
Now, any update on the World Cup coming in?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say. So yes, I'm glad. It's a good segue. I wrote that down here. So I did my placings, like after the brackets came out, and so I'm going on record here, and I'm gonna let you know here that I'm predicting my final four here. So
let's hear it.
So it'll be Spain, Argentina, France, and Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast is the dark horse because, as you know, I grew up in Africa, so I'm partial to African countries, and Ivory Coast has a pretty strong team this year. So so those are the ones in the final, in the semifinals. And then again, being sentimental, I'm picking France versus Ivory Coast in the final, and then France probably winning. And I know the computers are actually predicting France versus Argentina in the finals, and I could live with that too, because Argentina is usually one of my favorite teams, that I follow. So yeah, those are the four teams: Spain, Argentina, France, and Ivory Coast.
Any honorable mentions in there?
I think honorable mentions could be, I would say, England and Germany. They're always out there. Brazil is a little weak this year, but again, soccer is unpredictable in many ways because teams suddenly rise to the occasion, and and Brazil knows how to rise to the occasion because they've won it 5 times. So that makes it easier on them. So
Which country has the most championships out there?
Brazil at 5. Yeah.
Brazil at 5, and who's kind of following them?
Italy at 4. Their last one was in 2006. Yeah.
Oh wow. Now,
how's Germany at 4 too? Yeah.
How's the U.S. team doing? Are they ever going to break into the team?
That's always a struggle. I know you bring this up, but I think I've shared too that I think even with a coach from Argentina, they're struggling overall in a cohesive team. But I mean, they qualified automatically as a host, so they didn't get to go through that grinding qualifying, which could be a detriment sometimes. That you haven't gone through the process of 2 years of qualifying for the World Cup, because the host countries are given a bye, as qualifying. So but I would say I think they'll get to the round of 32 this year. There's a round of 32 and a round of 16 because we have 48 teams this year in the World Cup. It's the first time it's going up from 32 to 48. So there's 16 more teams, a lot more games, 104 games total in between those 6 weeks. Yeah. Wow. But here's the sad thing, Argentina is in the same group as the other teams that were assigned from that group for San Francisco. But here's how it works in the world of money, because Argentina, obviously the big draw. Our stadium here in San Francisco only hosts 65,000. So they moved the Argentina games two in Dallas at the AT&T Stadium, which holds over 100,000, and then the other one in Kansas City, which holds, I believe, about 80,000. So quite a few more tickets. So you can imagine $2,000 tickets, another 30,000 more tickets. You do the math.
Oh, yeah.
So that's where FIFA is putting Argentina play.
Ah,
So,
yeah.
so the sad thing is in San Francisco or Santa Clara here, our games are not of the highest tier nations. I don't want to diminish, people qualifying for the World Cup or the nations qualifying for the World Cup, but we're not getting any of the big games here in San Francisco. Surprisingly, they're happening in Dallas, Houston, Miami, New York, Kansas City.
Yeah. And pretty much, I imagine almost every country out there kind of goes for it, but only 48 make the final cut, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we start off with the full 204 nations because some are not officially countries, but they get to. So that's one great thing about FIFA, the International Football Federation, is that they allow even unrecognized countries to also play in the qualifiers. So yes, start off with 204, and then you get to the 48. Yeah.
So even like a little country like Singapore,
can potentially has an opportunity. Well, the smallest country this time is Curacao in the Caribbean. They qualified for the World Cup from the Central and South American group. And yeah, many small countries like that. And I mean, if you look at some of the European countries, they're pretty small too. Like Belgium has about 8 or 10 million people. Netherlands has, about the same, and so on. So yeah, no, this is the first time where we have a lot of small countries. And also the one odd one from Africa is Cape Verde, the islands off the west coast of Africa. They qualified too. So
no way. And that's just a small little nation?
Yep.
Off the west coast?
But what's happening is that the diaspora, as the world, people have migrated to other places, so many play in European leagues and so on. And if you have not represented your host country, so to speak, so like France isn't a good example. The reason they have so many great players in France is because of the diaspora from all these countries, mainly Africa and around the world, technically. They're able to field players of very high quality. So then, but you still don't make it to the France national team or the French national team. You might get called to, say, represent some other country. So Cape Verde, maybe from Portugal, it's a Portuguese colony. So a lot of Portuguese league players are playing there. Like Ivory Coast, Morocco, and all that. They have a lot of French players playing for those countries. And so there's a lot of parity in world soccer now. People cannot discount another country. Oh, we're going to play Ivory Coast today. Oh, yeah, they typically lose, but that one occasion, they rise to the occasion, and who knows, you're going to have a tough game playing against them.
Yeah.
So a team like France can technically, even at the World Cup level, field two teams that'll be as equally strong as anybody else. They typically do that. There's just so many players.
Fantastic. Okay, so before we're getting ready to go to the break, but I wanted what topics would you like to kind of discuss today for the Parks and Rec community?
Yeah, so today I was thinking more about the special events because we're getting into the summer season. So starting with the World Cup, there was a good segue. Hopefully communities are hosting fan zones and, viewing parties and things like that in their public places or in their gyms or soccer complexes that they have, and so it's a good segue into special events and other things like 4th of July fireworks and things like that.
Yeah,
we'll talk about fire dangers and all that. In many cities, they're not doing it this year, continuing the trend that started 2-3 years ago with the severe drought and so on. So
okay, well, that's a great topic because I mean, special events are happening. Gosh, I wonder if anybody's ever added up. Well, first we have to define what is a special event, and then the industry, how many they're putting on. But if you've got each city hosting one special event a year and that's it, then you're looking at 12,000 nationwide, but a lot of cities will host 10. So that's 120,000. Some cities, we've had some cities host 50 or even 100 special events a year. I'm thinking like, New Orleans has a special event, every day of the week almost. We're like a tourist city. So I think it's a great topic, and there's many people in Parks and Rec that's 100% of what they do. There's a whole special events team. And so this is a really great topic, and everybody participates in it. Like even your grounds crews and stuff like that have to stop maintaining their facilities, set up for this big weekend event, attend and host it, and then clean it up on Monday. So it's like a 2 or 3 day thing for your maintenance crews to get these things going.
Absolutely, yeah. And all the necessary things because of, again, societal changes, if you're a large event, say like if you're over 10,000, it's always a good thing to engage the Department of Homeland Security. They come and do an free assessment for you and suggest, working with your local police department or sheriff's department, how to manage your crowds or traffic and all those other things.
Oh,
Because
that's
I think it raises the bar, and people feel safer to be there, considering what has happened around the country, around the world over the last 8 to 10 years.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so when we get back, we're going to talk all about special events.
Yeah.
But during our break, we're going to play 2 promos for 2 of our earliest supporters financially that have been helping to put fuel in the tank, because there's nothing worse than having the bus ready to go and you have no diesel in the tank. And so if it weren't for our vendors, we would just be having a bus that couldn't get off the ground or get moving down the road. So big shout out to Outdoor Link. They were one of our earliest supporters. They help cities become smart cities, much like you have a smart home that you can control your lights and air conditioning and the garage door from a cell phone. Imagine if your entire city was a smart city where you could control splash pads, parking lot lights, bathroom doors, sports field lights, all, from over the internet, online, through the air. So you're not having to send someone with a key to open up a padlock to turn off or on a disconnect, or give those keys out to coaches and stuff and they forget to turn them off. So this is actually a very big efficiency boost for a lot of cities to be able to control their entire, just their whole infrastructure smartly through Outdoor Link stuff. And I think it's like $950 for one of their terminals that can control, 4 different baseball fields at the same time. So it's very affordable, very cost efficient. And then our second company is actually Aaron Locks. His company works in youth sports, and he also hosts the Youth Sports Mastery Shows, been doing youth sports for 4 decades. And he has a company that's a franchise that actually partners with Parks and Rec departments to run a lot of their sports programs. And they will do everything turnkey, from after school care, or, maybe just one of the youth sports that you might not be as proficient or as good as equipped to do. So let's say you're doing a good job doing your football and basketball and baseball, but you want to start volleyball, but you just don't really have the talent for that. Well, his team can come in and basically run all that turnkey for you. So both of those companies have been supporting us from the beginning, and they've both been working in Parks and Rec for a very long time. So they're very reputable, very good companies. And so, Jovi, if you want to play those 2 promos, and we'll come back, we'll start our conversation, or finish up our conversation with Seve, all about special events.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the daily Parks and Rec show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs, we're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
All right. So we're back to talk with Seve Ghose about special events. Maybe define, obviously we know like the Christmas tree light and the 4th of July celebration. These are the ones that are super common. Are there any ones that, these are our top 5 that almost every city run? What do those look like?
Yeah, I think the top 5 would be like the July 4th fireworks or something
Mhm.
related to that, whether it's food and concert and a combination of all of that leading to the fireworks in the evening and so on. And then you have, so in my thinking, special events could be large sports events too. So you might have a large soccer complex. So like I always think of Overland Park, Kansas, or Rockford, Illinois, where they have over 40 soccer fields in one place.
Wow.
So you're hosting these tournaments with 800 to 1,000 teams over the course of a week or 2 weekends, and so on.
Yeah.
They're heavily sponsored by the larger companies like Adidas and Nike and so on. So again, in my book, those are special events or festivals too. You could also have a series like a Shakespeare festival where you set up a stage that you have in your park, in a small amphitheater that's already on the side in one of our parks in Louisville, Kentucky. That's what we did. We signed an annual contract with the local Shakespeare Festival group, and they took over the park and the stage. They made their stage based on the one play they were doing, and that became the backdrop. They maintained that, and then they sold tickets, and people enjoyed the play for about 6 weeks on different days, different times, different groups. Invited school groups. Sometimes they invited adults only. Things like that. So again, it's a wide gamut that I consider special events. But July 4th, maybe a concert series would be another one because some cities also host maybe 10 to 12 concerts, Memorial Day through Labor Day. That's the typical time frame.
Yeah.
Sports events. And then maybe, like you said, the tree lighting. But if it's a tree lighting that's as big as what we used to do in Louisville, Kentucky, just to kind of take a few seconds to describe it, we used to put out a feeler out into the community. Do you have an evergreen tree that you wish to donate to the Parks and Rec Department for the city or city and county of Louisville and Kentucky as your city's Christmas tree, And so the word would get out and people would call in. Then our city forester would go and examine the tree and then pick the one that we select. And then it becomes a chore. On the day we announce it, rain or shine, big semi shows up. We cut the tree down, our forestry department, and we load it onto this flatbed. And guess what? Up in the sky, we have the 4 local TV channels and their helicopters following that. So
No way.
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was an annual thing, and it's awesome just to get the free coverage. Then the tree gets delivered to in front of City Hall, and it gets put up. And the cameras stay with you till and we try to get it done all in one day, and the stringing, the lights, and all of that, that we've perfected over the years. But then the family gets recognized, and when the mayor does do the lighting a week later, a couple of days later, the family that donated the tree or their, the property that donated the tree, and so on. So it becomes a large event, and so in those events, you don't get the typical, 400 or 500 people. We get 5,000 to 6,000, sometimes 50,000, just depends on the year and how nice the weather is and so on. And then the last one is the typical, what I call the similar to the Taste of Chicago festivals, which is like one of the largest food festivals. You have concerts and all that. That's on the periphery, but the big attraction is the food from all over the world. And Chicago is a great place, a great melting pot for food from all over the place. So I would say even you could probably find food from 200 different countries right in Chicago, and especially during Taste of Chicago, which is right on the lakefront. You can beat the setting, you've got everything going on. And especially if it ends up being a 100-degree day with 95% humidity, then you're sweltering. But the best part to that is it's always around the July 4th weekend. So they end the final night with 1.2 million people in Grant Park watching the fireworks. And it's always to Tchaikovsky's 1812. So it's a known thing, but people gather there,
Right. God, that's crazy. Now that's a crowd. I think that's the largest crowd I've ever heard of. It's got to be one of the top in the country for
no, it is. Yeah, it is. And when you're done, you just stand there. People just push you along towards the train stations because you get on the train and there's extra trains running, and then you go out to the suburbs. You don't bring your car downtown for that weekend.
Right. Yeah, definitely depend on public transportation then.
Yep.
And so, what are the common denominators of a special event? And I'm thinking like, okay, at a base minimum, a special event is on public land. At
Yes.
least that's probably the predominant, and it needs the help, even if you're partnering with somebody of some person that works in the Parks and Rec department, and you may need to get the police involved in barricades and where's everybody going to use the restroom, and how many people are going to attend. So I think those are kind of like the basic. What other basic building blocks am I missing?
Yeah, so you develop a core team, so you start those meetings. I would say if you're doing a special event for the first time that you're going to get, say, more than 10,000 people, you develop a
Uh,
core team internally. So Parks and Rec staff, other city staff from maybe if the city does their own refuse collection, maybe have that be part of the team. Police, fire, and other emergency preparedness, ambulance services, and so on.
mhm,
Especially being in the summer, you never know, heat and other challenges. You want to have ambulances there and so on. And then obviously working with other city departments to make sure that your core volunteer piece, it becomes a
mhm,
citywide event that departments send, anywhere from 1 to 10, 20, maybe 50 people to help out in the booths, tents, ushering, ticketing, whatever it might be that you're looking to do, because that's how you develop your interest and your buy-in from the rest of the city staff towards your special events.
yeah.
Yeah. Because
All right, go ahead.
no, go ahead, please.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about I guess the money side, the revenue side, the cost side. Who's paying for this? Is it going to break even? Are we just going to pay for this whole thing? And then who's involved? But if you're looking at it from a financial standpoint, even moving more towards the economic impact on the city, where do you kind of start on that?
Again, you have to start by placing the expected expenses in your budget. I think you have to start there, because trying to
Mhm.
go out on a first time event to seek sponsors, you might be lucky, you might get some once in a while, and I'm not saying that you cannot, but overall you have to plan for it in the budget. And then, while it's in the budget and during the process of staging this event, you might find sponsors to defray some of the cost. But the
Mhm.
second year, the goal would be, look, 10,500 people showed up for our event. Let's start going out into the community to the banks, other entities, or large employers, and seek funding, because I think they would be interested in seeing people come, and
Mm.
maybe even making the event grow a little bit. And when it gets to like the more regional type events, like a soccer tournament and so on, that has the economic impact, then it's easy, because then, like as I shared earlier, the one in Overland Park and the one in Rockford, Illinois, they have Adidas as their sponsor, so they basically
Mm.
plastering their name, and they provide all the soccer balls, the netting, all of that stuff. So that also defrays a lot of the planned cost, because
Mm.
you're going to have 84 good sets of nets, you got to have the corner flags, so all of that gets provided by Adidas, so that's a
Mm.
positive thing in that sense. But you have to start from scratch in your budget, and then build
Right.
on top of that. So.
All right, so let's say you get nailed down the cost and who needs to be involved and stuff, and I don't want to say you're getting free workers, but you have workers that are on payroll, so you're not having to hire people, but you have to let them know, hey, we need you this weekend, and then who are the other people as far as like volunteers? Maybe we talk a little bit about volunteer. Well, actually, before we get into volunteers, let's talk about what are the common add-on economic drivers. And the example I'm thinking of is like the food trucks. A lot of times you can charge maybe $200 or a few $100 for a food truck, and maybe you can get a piece of what they sell. Maybe talk a little bit about that economy, and then what are the other kind of creative ways that you've found to make a little bit of money to defer some of the costs?
No, and you mentioned food trucks, absolutely. And so a good example would be from when I was in Oregon, in Springfield, Oregon. We actually designed a new sports complex with built-in food truck attachments. So which means they were like pods, where all the
Ah,
food truck had to do was park in that spot, plug in the electricity, sewer line, water, all of that into one pod. And so we charged the fee just to use the pod for, say, the 6 hours or the 8 hours or 10 hours, depending on what the event was, and they got to keep the revenue. So these food trucks in Oregon are very creative and specialty items. I'm talking about these breakfast sandwiches that were this big, and I'm not
wow.
exaggerating there, with strawberries, and all. Oregon strawberries are pretty good, supposedly, and they, plaster them with the strawberries and cream on top and things like that. So they come up with niche one-off things. So they generate a lot of revenue, because people when they show up for that event year on year, they expect that to be bigger and better. So I want the bigger
Right.
strawberry sandwich or whatever it was,
Right.
So you build complexes that are already easy to offer to food truck communities or any other community, any food vendor, and so on.
Yeah.
Because that's where we sometimes lack. We host a big event and then we realize we don't have any power source around our park. How do you
Right.
do that? So you have to have those infrastructure pieces in place as much as possible.
Yeah. This was some of my first exposure to Parks and Recreation for the little city of Port Allen when I was like super young, in my teenage years. And we were in charge of getting the power to the food vendors, which at the time was like an 8-foot table and somebody frying fries in the back and flipping hamburgers. It wasn't nothing like the food truck economy we have in today's world. But you're right. I mean, you've got essentially 50 kitchens showing up, and they all need electricity. They all need water. They all need, the ability to kind of do what they do. And if they don't have a place to plug in, some of these have like little generators, but then you've got this loud generator noise in the background.
Right. So actually in Davenport, Iowa, on the riverfront, where we host a lot of the large events, anywhere from 10,000 up easily, we created pods, also similar to the pods I was describing earlier in Oregon. But this was also for use for city events too. So I remember when even President Obama came, to our town for his campaign, I think in 2012 or so, or just to give a speech and so on. We hosted it there. All the television stations, guess what? They parked their trucks right next to the same pods, and they were able to use that. So you have to kind of think how you do that strategically, or you try to create a space that's meant for an event of 1,000 up to 10,000 or even 50,000. So if you can design those spaces that way or lay them out over time that way, you save money in the long run and still gets used. So.
Yeah. All right. So I know communications is like critical for any special event. You've got to coordinate. What are all the populations you need to coordinate? I'm thinking like volunteers, police, like who are all the people you have to touch base with to pull off a special event?
I'm glad you're bringing up volunteers, because none of these events would be possible without volunteers. So they're number one, and that could be your city staff, as I shared earlier, but also the community. So what you do is you go out and work with the groups that you're already working with. So anywhere from, from the young volunteers at Boys and Girls Club to high schools, school district, and then your core partners in the community. So, they could be a ABC company, or it could be just individuals that are your core group of volunteers that come and help deadhead roses in your rose garden, or help with mulching and pruning and things like that, or identifying birds or identifying animals to add to your list and things like that. So your whole core of volunteers from A through Z basically congregate for the special events, whether it's a one-day event or 3-day weekend event and so on. So you have to cultivate that, and and you have to also recognize them in some way. So whether it's a party at the end of the season in October, and so on, or just calling out names, or somebody that went above and beyond, and make people feel good about themselves and volunteering. Why are they volunteering for your department? That recognition piece is important. So I think that's really awesome. And then also you invite your city volunteers to that too, because we as city employees, municipal employees, sometimes cannot accept awards, as you know, or rewards, so to speak. But at least you recognize them at the same event also. So you can have the police chief be the chief speaker, or the fire chief, and so on, because people in the community tend to appreciate that when that there is that cooperation or level of collaboration with city departments too. So and
okay,
then
so
don't forget the private sector too, because when they do give you that say a $50,000 check to host your event, you do want to recognize them and give them the top billing that they deserve. So
that was actually my next topic. I want to talk about those strategic partnerships because often there's like a massive hospital or like a big chemical plant or manufacturing facility, and they're always looking ways to invest in their community. And sometimes your special event can be the place where they can get a little name recognition, give back to the community, help you fund a big special event. So how do you kind of find and start those relationships, and what does that working relationship look like?
So I say it in two ways. So there's one, which is the very easy way, because we find the typical, companies or vendors that would, just step up no matter what. And because they're tied to the community, whether it's a recognition of whether they have advertisement banners in your park or in your ice arena or things like that. They're already giving to the community. They're used to doing that. So that's
Mhm.
one. The one I've strategically usually looked for are the ones that sometimes people frown on, So, I mean, I don't want to sound this as a negative thing. Actually, it's a positive thing. So, like, say if I was in Louisiana, if I were to approach BP to sponsor a big event, you might
Mhm.
get 50% of the population. They'll say, yeah, great, because, I have half of our family members work for BP. I'm using that as an
Right.
example. But the
Right.
other half might be on the environmental side, like, oh, they've done this much damage and this, so we cannot take money from the Seve. You're not going to take
Yeah.
money from them. But my argument would be, this is an opportunity to get to know BP. Maybe they have other ways. Sure, they extract oil. There's environmental damage, but they're also doing other things to help with some of those environmental positives. So how do you
Right.
bring them to the table? And I've had good luck with companies like that are willing to do that. A good example is Weyerhaeuser, the paper company, the logging company in Oregon, because they've logged for over 100 years and
Right.
destroyed forests and natural forests. But they've also done some great work in replanting and retreeing areas that they have depleted off of trees and so on. So
Right.
we should recognize them, and the fact that they're willing to give you something back is a huge
Right.
plus.
Yeah, and then a lot of times they're employing 7,000 people in your community,
Exactly. Yeah.
and
Yep.
they want to find a way to invest in the beauty of the community,
Yep.
and special events is a great way. A park is a great way. Um, I had somebody on the show. We were actually talking about special events, and he was good at setting up these. What do they call them? Public-private relationships or
Mhm.
partnerships.
Yep.
Um, and he said the more proactive you can be, rather than waiting for them to come to you, you reach
Absolutely.
out to them, find out what is their mission statement, and then what does that mission and vision locally look like? Not their global mission statement, but maybe for the town that you're in, maybe that part of their mission statement is to invest in their community. And then once you find out what their mission is, you might say, "Oh, I've got the perfect event for you." I've got, or maybe this sports tournament, or maybe this park. But it's up to you. He said the more you can kind of reach out to them, learn about how they want to give back, and then go through your whole inventory of special events and parks that you're doing, and find the good fit for them.
No, absolutely. You have to do the outreach, just like when you're building your volunteer base or anything that we do in Parks and Rec. I think that's one folly that we have in our Parks and Rec system is we wait for things to happen. Like we list a program, but we don't market it, advertise it, or go to the places where we might think we might get some of our players or participants in the program that we're creating. Same thing with sponsorships. You
Yeah.
have to go out there, and you might make an outreach to say 10 or 15 companies, and out of that 2 or 3 come out of the, so that's a good successful start, and then you build on that momentum,
Right.
you know
Yeah.
and
And I think the easiest list is what are the vendors that the city's using? Like, is there a tree company that you're always calling when a big tree falls down? And so you're giving them business. They may be more than willing to, give you a couple $1,000s for your next 4th of July celebration, and they get a little sign or something.
so you must be reading my mind again, because this coming Saturday we have our Earth Day event, so
Yeah.
Earth Day festival that we started 3 years ago. And so we contacted Bartlett Trees because they take care of the trees on our campus.
Uh-huh.
And they said, no, Sevi, we'll be happy to give away 100 saplings. So we're giving away. So, people like to take home something like swag and things like that.
Yeah.
So a nice little sapling, for free that they get to plant. And then they know it's coming from a quality place like Bartlett Trees,
Yeah.
tree care, so why not, and so they're like, Sevi, this is no big deal. And they're also in fact having a high tree climber with the full gear to show
Oh, yeah.
just to show off how they're going to do a climb a 84-foot tall redwood that's on our campus, so
Oh, wow. That's a tree surgeon. I had
yep, yep.
a cousin of mine that owned a big tree service company, and man, his insurance was, I think, the highest in the industry or of any businesses having to insure tree surgeons.
Yeah.
His workman's comp was super high.
But what that brings up is that you should not be tied to, like, say, if it's a food company doing a taste of your town festival, it doesn't have to be that. So it could be Bartlett Tree, for example, coming to
Yeah.
your July 4th fireworks, because they can brag about all the things they do around the community, and then, they might grow their business. They might sign on another couple of, corporate type companies to do their tree care in their properties, or it could be even residential type properties, because Bartlett as a company does that
Mhm.
too, so it's a mutually beneficial partnership is how you
Yeah.
look at it. And then the other piece we haven't talked about yet, but before I forget, I want to bring up. So when you nowadays, with all the troubles in the world and so on, any event that you're thinking might attract over 10,000 people, the Department of Homeland Security recommends a
Mhm.
free assessment that you should do of the site, of your programming, of how you're planning on laying out the 1 day program or the 3 day or the 2 day program. And they give you a free assessment. And out of that, in one of the cities I worked in, Colorado, we had a sniper tower built, because of the recent shootings and all of those kinds of
Mhm.
things. Two sniper towers, because our July 4th event attracted over 50,000 people, actually.
Wow.
So people lined up usually the day before to get the best spot. So they would show up with their campers loaded up with their extended family members. There'll be 20 people in the camper because they wanted that best spot.
Ah, yeah.
And so people start coming 2 days out. By the time the fireworks get ready to go, you're talking about 50,000 plus in
Yeah.
probably a 40-acre park, so a 45-acre park. And, so it's crowded, dense. There's vendors along the edges and so on. So we have two sniper towers as a recommendation, and it's been well received by the community. They do see it, because that's obvious. But you also
Yeah.
do special events around downtown type areas where you might not see the sniper. They might be hiding behind, but that's a service that the Department of Homeland Security offers. They also offer other types of barricade type systems that you could be educated on or learn about and then implement into your system. So you can have
Yeah.
crowd control devices that are easy to put together, and we've
Yeah.
done that many times too. So
Yeah, and it really is kind of special events could be the study of just how to handle large crowds.
yeah,
And that really is, a lot of times we lose sight of, we're putting on a 4th of July celebration, but one of the things you could say you're doing is we're preparing for 50,000 people to show up,
yeah.
have a place to go to the restroom, leave, traffic, all that kind of stuff. So it's all about crowd control and what's going to
Yes.
happen and what are some of the common pitfalls when you with large crowds?
Well, it's traffic control, basically, in and out both. And sometimes we think, oh, I can just put on the yellow vest and lead traffic. But there's actually a certain like a style and a what do you call step-by-step process for managing traffic. It's not just like, oh, everybody go this way one way and then suddenly you stop and then go this way. It doesn't work that way. You actually go through a training, and so when you work with your police and fire department, those are the things you learn, and they do that training for all the volunteers and so on. So. And then they're
Yeah.
respected, because if they do it right, even the person in the car is not getting flustered or upset about, like, why am I sitting here for 5 minutes and you're letting the other side go? Those simple things, but they add up to frustration for the following year and so on, and lessons learned for us for
Yeah.
this year too. So yeah, I think getting the right training, doing what do you call like a beta test day, for the
Yeah.
festival, and do a
Like
full run around
a
with
dry
the
run.
trial run. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's essential. So once you get good at it, then it becomes natural. And one other thing to share in this is that I have also worked with other towns nearby. So when we were in Iowa and Davenport, we have a lot of small farming towns around there. They're not big enough to host big things or big events. So what we used to do is actually go there. I used to go there personally and meet with their city hall folks or the mayor or, the small city council and so on, and share that we're doing events. And so what they would then do is contract with their school district to offer the buses to take their townsfolk to attend our events. So it
Mm,
helped elevate the event in quality, but it also became very inclusive, because a lot of these small towns never get to see any of these events, and they might not even know of our events if I didn't
yeah.
go there or our staff didn't go there and talk about, hey, by the way, we're doing a July 4th fireworks. No need to spend your money and do it there. Use the money to bring people over to ours, and they might enjoy it more, and so on.
Yeah.
So we've built those kinds of partnerships in many of these areas, especially
Mhm.
Davenport comes to mind because it's the larger city surrounded by many, many small farm towns that have maybe 100 people, 200 people, up to about 2,000 maybe, and so on.
Right.
So,
Now, are there any, and we can kind of close out with this one, but are there any, so let's say you ran a tree lighting celebration. This is your 40th year that you're doing this. What has changed over the years, and kind of what's the kind of newer thing that, it obviously isn't done anymore, where, in 2025, 2026 with all the new technology and stuff, what are kind of the new things about special events that people might not be aware of?
And I think it's using technology. Sometimes I've still gone around many parts of the country, and they're still doing it the same way. The string lights along the trees.
Yeah.
Sure, it looks great because they put up 100,000 lights and all that, but they're doing it the same way. Very laborious, a lot of staff and hours needed, and so on. Very labor intensive. And
Mhm.
nowadays with technology, start focusing on maybe shifting that mindset. I know it's sometimes difficult because we're used, we've always done it this way. You hear that all the time.
Right,
But
right.
but making use of technology is a great way. I mean, you could have if you have a big enough city, say 100,000 people, I'm sure there's enough resources in that town to rent an outfit, so to speak, that could create a hologram of a Christmas tree in your city square. It
Yeah.
doesn't, it allows for more people to come in, and it's a hologram. So guess what? You can have people all over the place, even surrounding the tree, and not be have to worry about
Yeah.
crowd control and some of those other challenges that might result from having a real tree there in the middle of
Yeah.
square.
Yeah,
So
drone shows is one that kind of comes to mind.
yep,
That instead of fireworks, they're using drone shows, and those are really cool. Like I've
yep.
been to a couple.
No, I've seen those too. Yeah, but again, using technology, whether it's a hologram or the drones, or or a flyby, or however it works, absolutely. Yeah. The
Yeah.
one other thing we didn't talk about: many cities are working together to do these what they call air shows. We used to do one in Davenport too, in our airport, their local airport there too. Air shows are very common, but they obviously cost a little bit more money. But sometimes you'll be lucky enough to maybe not have to pay, depending on where you are close to. If you're close to a military base, you might get, you create those relationships, partnerships
Right.
again with the Air Force Base or whatever, and you might be able to get a, flyby air shows because they're willing to do those things, So.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I used to live in Pensacola for a little while, and they have the is it the Blue Angels? I think that's
Yes. Yeah.
the ones
Yep.
in Pensacola, and they do 2 shows a year, and it is just packed all over the beaches, and then the stuff they do is just amazing, and all the different flyovers and stuff. But those are great special events that your town can participate in.
Yep. No, as you can hear, we've talked about so many of these special events, whether it's a theater from Shakespeare to all, the tree lighting, which is, more local in the sense, but you can make them what you want it to be. So, I mean, other things. I know we, in prior shows, talked about the large complex that Oklahoma City built, the water complex where they dammed
Yeah.
the
Oh,
river.
yes.
So, I mean, they're doing so much stuff out there. You should probably try and get that CEO from that site on your show, because I'm sure they could share what they've totally transformed the whole experience. I think I shared earlier that in one of your shows that the LA Olympics, the rowing and all of that, kayaking, it's not happening in LA. It's actually happening in Oklahoma City.
In
Just
Oklahoma City?
Yep.
I thought I had let me see if I thought I had maybe their director on.
Oh, good. Maybe they could come back maybe soon, because the Olympics coming up here in a year and a half, so a couple of years.
Let me see if I can. Jason? No, this is Norman, Oklahoma. Jason Olsen, but he was telling me about that big thing.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, it
everybody in Oklahoma
was like
City
a
is bought
massive
into it.
water park, isn't it? It's
Sorry?
huge.
Yeah, it's a huge water park, and they've created the rowing, for Olympics. Everything is all in one complex. It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So again,
Okay,
that could be
I lost your sound
another approach to like.
to a close anyway. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I
Seve?
can hear you fine. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess because we had a little technical difficulty, I don't know why the sound all of a sudden went off. I don't think it's a button on my end. But Seve, anyway, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate every time you come on. You have a standing invitation to come on 4 times a year if you want to share all your wisdom. I really appreciate it. And keep doing what you're doing. And one day I'm going to make it out to San Francisco and then come visit and see your park.
No, please do. Happy to show you around. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's all we have for today. Jovi, if you want to go ahead and wrap us up, and stay tuned. I think we have a show called Smart Parks Forward coming up next. So see you all here in a bit. Thanks, guys. Bye.
JDP Services Management Consulting, supporting parks and recreation and the essential service they provide. Communities benefit greatly from having dedicated advocates who champion the value of play in open spaces. Such advocacy ensures that recreational areas are prioritized and managed in ways that enhance the overall quality of life for everyone. We are dedicated to fortifying public park and recreation agencies and other related organizations by taking a practical, engaged approach to consulting and training, addressing immediate needs while equipping clients with lasting insight and tools to strengthen their organizations for long-term success. JDP Services, Management Consulting, meeting needs and exceeding expectations.
Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.